So welcome everyone to Sophia Sparks. This is going to be a rather long class. There's a lot of material. We're going to be entering into the alchemical parts of it on our next session. So today I'm going to give you an overview. And normally we begin the class with backing into the tree. Today we're going to do this in the middle of the class so you can get a sense of what the backing into the tree is as a subjective mode of experience, which incorporates the gnosis and the feminine. We're also, of course, going to begin with the PowerPoint, the keynote, and that is an objective view of the tree. So here we go. So reanimating the world soul. This will be a journey, alchemical pathways to individuation through the Tree of Life. So to introduce the Tree of Life from the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, it is described as 32 mysterious paths of wisdom, numbers, letters, and words. So it's a geometric diagram that describes the above and below, the within and without, the tension of the opposites, and the involution and evolution of consciousness. And it shows the various degrees of conscious awareness manifested by the one identity in the production of the universe and all it contains. These degrees of conscious awareness and activities are powers. They are present in every human being. To know what they are and to live in accordance with this knowledge is to become a practical Kabbalist. So there are 32 paths, 22 of those paths. Some of us did this journey, which was the ascending pathways on using the Major Arcana. And we explored in a 9-week process, the initiatory pathways, ascending the tree from matter into spirit. What we're doing now, having ascended, we have reached the light and we are going to descend because we've discovered that at the top of the tree is Sophia. So these 10, we're using 11, you'll see why, basic aspects of the life power, which are called Sephirot, create the additional 10 and 22 create the 32. We'll be incorporating the zodiac and the alchemical processes into this. So let it be known, today the eternal feminine is an incorruptible body, is descending to earth. In the unfading light of the new goddess, heaven has become one with the deeps. A beautiful quote from the eternal feminine, Vladimir Soloviev. And here is The Mother of the World by Roerich. Says Jung, the feminine mind is pictorial and symbolic and comes close to what the ancients called Sophia. So this is our journey. It's going to be very much about drawing in the creative energy and the creative sparks that we each carry. And I'm hoping that over the course of these 11 sessions we're going to be meeting, that we not only create community together at this, as we travel through this tunnel, but also find different ways to express this creativity as it comes through us and our work individually in the world. And I know all of you are doing really, really important work right now. And we're needed. We really were made for these times. So here is the Hagia Sophia. This is from the mosque turned back into, well, it is now once again a mosque. And thanks to the beautiful work of Elisa Markov, we have her iconography and historical data. You will be probably seeing more of her work, and we're going to get deeper into this. Here we are. Here is the Tree of Life. We're going to be working with the Hermetic Tree of Life. The Kabbalistic Tree of Life doesn't use the tarot, and we're going to be using a little bit of the Minor Arcana in future classes, not today, because the Minor Arcana fits on the tree. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time focusing on this because, and we'll be coming back to this again and again, because this is the symbol that the universal Kabbalistic Tree of Life is the symbol we're working on. And right now, in the next class, we're going to be beginning with the first spark, which we're imagining, we believe that this was what was called the Holy Ghost, and this is the spark of Sophia, the beginning of light, the first spark of the universe. Whether it's actually neither male nor female, but the energy is the sun behind the sun, might be one way to talk about it. So these top triangles are called the supernal triangle, and they are on the universal archetypal beyond cosmological level. And so they're not manifest, but they are what we carry within us that makes possible everything else. This is a hidden sphere called Doth, which we will be getting into as we go, hopefully next week. And it is the passage of the gnosis. It's the abyss, but it's called knowledge. It's hidden knowledge. So it's very, very important, because this particular passage brings us from the realm of spirit, where you can see it's white, gray, and black, which is the sphere of Saturn. And it brings us through the abyss, through the birth canal, into the three-dimensional reality, where we arrive in duality and in color. So this is the tree of life that was spoken of in the Garden of Eden story as well. And the tree that stood there, which transcends the opposites. It is the perfect symbol of the universe as cosmos, as psyche in the middle, and down here is matter. This particular triangle down here is called the astral triangle, and it's the subtle body. And this is the realm of the ego on one level, but also of dreams. And so we have imagination and we have mind, and here we have this lunar reflective energy reflecting the sun. This triangle, which is the very center of the tree, you can see is the sun. And this sun is indicative of the Buddha consciousness, the Christ consciousness. This is as far as we can travel within a body. And just reading yesterday as a background, when I was reading about a lot of the work I'm doing is coming from Stephan Hoeller's wisdom. And he speaks of this sun is the center. It's called beauty. And it's, if you fold the tree up, you can fold it up into a cube. And this is the very, very center. It's the heart and soul. But what you can see in this is this triangle actually reflects this triangle, which is on the top. It's exactly opposite. So therefore, what we experience in our lives on Earth is a reflection and opposite of what is in behind us in the other realms. So that's an interesting thing to meditate on. This is called the philosophical triangle. So it has to do with the cosmological, the psyche, the soul, the mental plane. And this one, as I said, is lunar. So we have this reflection. At the bottom here, we have the Malkuth, which is the earth. And this is where we are standing right now. And our story takes us that Sophia fell from here. I mean, there are many, many versions of the story. We will talk about them briefly, but she fell. And when she fell from her place with the gods, with the highest realms, she fell, her spark was lost. And that spark is the soul. And what we're working towards in our lives right now is how to bring soul, how to reanimate ourselves and the earth that right now is in such a crisis. So it is a perfect moment to be bringing Sophia Spark back to the earth. And as you can see, this is also Jung's quaternity. For those of you who are familiar with Jung, air, fire, earth, and water. And that is, again, the theme, the air, fire, earth, and water that will there are 4 trees we'll be describing. So just very briefly, because we're on the tree, we're ascribing this to Neptune because it's the beginning, it's the absolute first spark womb, the emergence of the light. Hokma, which shows over here, is the great father, is also Uranus, the symbol of the zodiac. And then we're going to pop over here. This is Saturn. And this is the beginning of where the ancients started to follow the alchemy. And then we've ascribed Pluto because this is the place of the abyss. It's actually called Thoth. And so it seemed like an appropriate place, Pluto being hidden. It's actually even hidden as a planet, which is a very interesting synchronicity. Then we move down, we're moving down the lightning path. Over here is what is ascribed to Jupiter and across, which is called Hesed. This is the pillar of mercy. This is the pillar of severity. The pillar of severity is the feminine. The pillar of mercy is the masculine, which is interesting in itself. Why? Because the pillar of severity, here, Saturn, we say in the esoteric world that when you strip Saturn's mask, there is the divine feminine. And she is the Black Madonna, the Black Goddess. She is the creator and the destroyer of form. And therefore, she is connected to severity. That said, we're traveling the lightning path. So we're going back and forth, and the masculine and the feminine are always dancing together. And that is the symbol of the caduceus. So we've come from Jupiter across over here to Mars. Mars is about severance, severing. It's action. It's very masculine yang energy, but it serves to discriminate between this and that, to cut away and to clear. So then, of course, here Tiferet, which is beauty, and as we've spoken of, the center of the tree, soul, and then over here we have arrived in Venus, which is green and is Netzach in Hebrew, and is the realm of imagination. And then across over here is Mercury, which we know is thinking, it's thought and imagination. So we have the Eros and Logos also dancing together. Also, I should mention that the anima and animus are also depicted here in this realm before manifestation. So then coming down the middle pillar, as it's called, we come to Yesod, which is the moon. And it reflects the sun and reflects this, which we could call the first spark being the sun behind the sun, before we arrive at last on Earth. So here is a beautiful pictorial image of the tree itself by Jofra, or I believe it's Jofra Boschard. I'm sure I've mispronounced his name. He, I believe, died in 1977, but this is one of his extraordinary pieces. We'll be using some of them because he has such an understanding of the Hermetic tree. And over here, we can see the mythology embedded within these images. And you'll see it again. So take a moment to meditate on this image. You have the tree embedded here. Here is that crown. Now, the first spark that we were looking at is called Kether, the crown. And in these times, we will be opening the crown. The crown has opened, and the coronavirus is such a strangely synchronistic manifestation of the as above, so below, because it is not seen, not visible, and yet it is creating such huge havoc and huge transformation. So on the tree, as above, so below are the same. And so here we have the crown, the opening of the crown, and we move down. There's a wheel here. You can see the old woman inside the tree itself. She's connected to the earth, the old wise woman, and this spirit of the arrow moving upwards, because this was the ascent. We're actually moving down this time. But you can also see the quintessence here. the figure of the human, which is called the quintessence. It's the five-pointed star because it represents air, fire, earth, and water. And the quintessence is spirit. And that is what we all are, is spirit in matter. It's our true destiny. So on either side, again, this is a total depiction of the tree because you've got the veils as well. The high priestess who we have worked with is veiled. She's the one who brings the gnosis through. So on the one side, from where you're looking, here we have the Great Father, which is what we called Hokmah over here at the top of the tree. But, you know, here we have Venus. So there's always this connection with the masculine and the feminine. On the opposite side here, we have the Great Mother. And below her, we have Mercurius. Now, these are exact replications of the symbol of the tree we just looked at. And there's Pegasus. It has to do with poetry and creativity. And these people filing in and out as ghosts as we go through life and through death and return again and again, because this is a cyclical journey. And the true feminine reminds us that life is cyclical. Life and death are part of the same process, as we're discovering today. So moving forward, says Jung, no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Jung also spoke in the philosophical tree, which some of you know, that we are trees, but we're upside down. Our roots reach upwards and our hair flows downward. This is also, we've seen this also in the card of the hangman. But you can see the crown at the top, the kether, the crown, and then all the lights. But here are the symbols for earth. So we're in the upside down tree, reversed. So this is really important. Again, we'll be coming back to this again and again. So I'm going to read it, and you're going to get a recording, so you'll be able to meditate on it, and you'll find this everywhere. The Emerald Tablet, which was ascribed to Hermes Trismegistus, who was the father of astrology, alchemy, and theurgy, which is magic, which is the Hermetic tradition that we are entering. And this contains all. So, in truth, without deceit, certain and most veritable, that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. And just as all things have come from this one thing through the meditation of one mind, so do all created things originate from this one thing through transformation. Its father is the sun, its mother the moon. The wind carries it in its belly. Its nurse is the earth. It is the origin of all, the consecration of the universe. Its inherent strength is perfected if it is turned into earth. Separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross. Gently and with great ingenuity, it rises from earth to heaven and descends again to earth, thereby combining within itself the powers of both the above and the below. Thus will you obtain the glory of the whole universe. All obscurity will be clear to you. This is the greatest force of all powers, because it overcomes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. In this way was the universe created. From this comes many wondrous applications, because this is the pattern. Therefore am I called thrice great Hermes, having all three parts of the wisdom of the whole universe. Herein have I completely explained the operation of the sun. So this is our work. I mean, this is all of it. And we're going to be looking at these alchemical pieces over the course of our classes, piece by piece. In the next couple of classes, we're going to be working with Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, which of course the ancients did not that they weren't aware of, but certainly they weren't part of their alchemical processes. And then we're going to move into specific alchemical processes as they relate on the tree in terms of the planetary cosmological influences, the psychological soul influences, and also the alchemical influences. Because alchemy for Jung was in itself held the secrets of individuation processing. So here is another Jofra Boss chart one, and here is Mercurius. Again, he is holding the two sides of the tree. You can see the Great Mother on the left side if you're facing her, and you can see how she really is severity. She is connected to form, whereas the masculine side is connected to force. And in the tree, it is always, the caduceus is a dance of force and form, force and form. So on the left side, you can see her holding that grail, the chalice, the cup in her hand. And below her, you can see these souls moving in towards her or coming out, but it's matter. She represents matter. And below her, and we're going to be getting into a great deal of detail on this, we have the circle, which is the sphere, the triangle, and the cube, which represent how the alchemists work to create, bringing spirit into matter through this alchemical processes. So keep that in your mind, that image. And on the left side, of course, we have life itself. So the Great Father is bringing forth this, you know, we have these leopards. So there's a wild life force, spirit in matter. And in the center, most importantly, we have the feminine pointing downward to the earth. She is the lunar feminine. And above her, Mercurius, who is the mediator between spirit and matter, between the opposites of dark and light, and masculine and feminine, and within, he's wrapped within the caduceus. And the center, the heart, which is Tiferet, is the soul, radiating out of his center. And the above, so below, he's pointing above, so below. And the figure at the top, the divine emerging. And it's interesting too, you can see that the quintessence, the five-pointed star, which is representative of the human, is our destiny, is pointing upwards into this sphere, into the heavenly spheres, to the crown itself, and has taken wing. So this is just a beautiful image, because it depicts not only the work of the hermeticists and the alchemists, but also you can see it on the tree itself. Here's another Jofra Boss chart, and here we have the feminine receiving the light of Sophia from above in the swirling universe, and her feet on earth. It's another image. It's both the stars and the earth come together. The as above, so below. And here is our task to bring this light into earth. And you can see she's green, which is the color of Venus. And here's another image I'm not sure who belongs to, but here you can see that ladder pointing up into the sky and down again. The ancients called the Tree of Life Jacob's Ladder because there are 4 trees, one on top of the other, which I will look at as we go. And there's the holy mountain and the light behind the light. And you can see that the journey is a spiral one, going both up the tree and down. And here is some interesting, and these are both older images. The one on the left is by Robert Flood, so it's from the medieval times. And there's the tree. Again and again, we'll see in the alchemical imagery, this comes forth. And of course, the DNA, the spiral on the right side. So this is a journey. The caduceus is our DNA, and it's the kundalini, and it's the spiral. William Blake going up and down the spiral. This one is actually definitely very heavenly. the heavenly light. And here we have Leonardo da Vinci. What's very interesting about this depiction of the Garden of Eden, I'm not exactly here, the snake has a physical form, the serpent has a physical form, and the serpent is really important, as we will see, because we ascended the tree on the serpent path. We're coming down on the lightning path, but it is the mediator. Again, without the serpent, we would have had no story. Adam and Eve would have stayed in Keter, in the Participation Mystique forever, and never manifested, never made the journey, had there not been the serpent. But what's behind the serpent is this red figure, which has been sometimes connected to Sophia. So it's been said that Sophia was behind the story at the beginning, but she has always been there. And oftentimes when we see the red, it's connected to the feminine, it's connected to the Sophia, connected to, of course, Mary Magdalene, which is also one of the feminine figures that has been manifest of this feminine. So moving forward, Jung's serpent from the Red Book. And Jung says, the serpent is the earthly essence of man, of which he is not conscious. It is the mystery that flows to him from the nourishing earth mother. And here's another William Blake of Eve being tempted by the serpent. So the serpent takes us into the intimation, the possibility of coming to consciousness, because the serpent is also, of course, the energy of the Kundalini in our bodies. So again, bringing body, matter, spirit into matter. So Jung says in Symbols of Transformation, no one should deny the danger of the descent, but it can be risked. No one need risk it, but it is certain that someone will. And let those who go down the sunset way do so with open eyes, for it is a sacrifice which daunts even the gods. Yet every descent is followed by an ascent. The vanishing shapes are shaped anew, and a truth is valid in the end only if it suffers change and bears new witness in new images, in new tongues, like a new wine that is put into new bottles. And here we are. We have made the ascent on this journey. Some of us have been on the Mystic Fool journey, and now we are descending. So there are 3 conjunctios, and we'll be getting more into this, and I'm learning too. But the first conjunctio has to do with the ascent, that coming into the marriage of the masculine and the feminine is what the sacred marriage is, what the conjunctio is. The second conjunctio, we make a descent, and that's what we're doing. And then the third, well, we'll see, we make the final ascent where we finally connect, and we'll be getting back into this. We connect body, mind, and spirit. This is by Jake Badley, who sends his good wishes. He's a contemporary, amazing artist who lives in the Netherlands. And this is one of his pieces. And I had to add this because it feels like this is where we are. So the journey, in terms of the tarot, is the Fool, whose placement is here, who represents spirit, and his descent into matter and the world. This particular card, the world or the universe, represents the anima mundi. And you can see it's feminine, because what begins up here in the great feminine, the great mother, the journey, when she arrives in matter, it's feminine. Why? Because matter is feminine, spirit is masculine. So it's always the stance. So the Fool makes the journey and wears all the masks, his journey to return to the world. And once he's returned to the world, we then make the journey back up again and ascend. So it's involution, evolution, descent, and ascent. So here is from the Thoth Tarot, the beautiful universe card, spirit embodied in matter, the anima mundi, and the 4 signs of the zodiac at the corners, the world, and you can see the serpent and the great eye coming through. And again, the figure is feminine. She has a conch, the conch head. So moving forward, an image of Holy Sophia. And Sophia, of course, is the Greek word for wisdom. And so she's pointing upwards, she is crowned, and that intimates that Keter, the crowning that we spoke of. And I am now going to share with you a little piece of a video that really pinpoints it with Alice O. Howell.
Let me begin by asking you, what is the meaning behind the title of your book, The Dove and the Stone?
Well, I agree. It's a bit of a difficult concept just to read The Dove and the Stone, but the subtitle says, Finding the Sacred in the Commonplace. And for me, when I discovered that Jung had pointed out that the dove was the only symbol left in the Trinity for the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, somehow that clued me into doing further research. And Jung pointed out that the Christian Trinity originally was God the Father, God the Son, and Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia meaning holy wisdom, and that this was feminine. And that the only clue to the fact that the third person of the Trinity is feminine was the dove, because the dove was a symbol of Astarte and the ancient goddesses. And he also pointed out that when the term Hagia Sophia, which is Greek, when that was translated into Latin, it became Spiritus Sanctus. Now, what gender are the words in Latin, Spiritus Sanctus?
Masculine.
Yeah, so if you refer with a pronoun to Spiritus Sanctus, you'd have to use a masculine one. And so gradually, the whole Trinity, or the Godhead in early Christian times, became masculine. And this did a very sad thing to really, literally, not only to women, but also to our attitude towards nature. And somehow, the idea that nature is sacred and that our daily life, as it were, could also be the hiding place of the sacred, kind of vanished. Everything got projected out into heaven or out there somewhere. And as a result, both women and nature and ecology have suffered until, I would say, the last 50 years, where we're beginning to change our view. Well, now the dove in the stone part, is the idea that the stone, which is matter, might not be just matter. And I think that nuclear physics is coming to our rescue, because if you come right down to what is matter, it's atoms. And what is in atoms is nuclei and protons and electron and energy. And what is so exciting with that idea is that energy is everywhere. It's just matter is energy at a slower rate. So if that energy is divine, then everything is holy.
Where does the Virgin Mary fit in our Western tradition as a symbol of the feminine?
The Virgin Mary she caught the projection, as it were, of the feminine and of the goddess, and she has been a most powerful symbol for the past 2,000 years for women. But the limitations of the Virgin Mary, I'm speaking now not to offend anybody, because I too honor the Virgin Mary deeply. the Virgin Mary was not described as having an IQ of any kind. And I think that this too kept women in their place. The idea of women being able to think or to express their thoughts was certainly not encouraged. And about as recently, let's say, as the 16th century, a woman in England was put to death because she had a copy of the Psalms in her apron pocket. But I think we are now evolving, that women today need to get past the idea that being innocent and pure and sweet is all. That women too have a right to be whole beings. And Jung pointed out that when, let's say, the feminine was pushed out of the Godhead, so was the devil, or Lucifer, whatever. And so in the Middle Ages, you get these two coming together in a way that, in a negative sense, the feminine and the devilish consorting together. That was the worst that could possibly happen. And so if I'm right in suspecting that Hagia Sophia is the feminine to come for all of us, it would involve a kind of feminine wisdom open both to men and to women that isn't so heavy. But the figure of wisdom in the Old Testament is young, kind, loving to human beings.
So you feel, like a lot of other writers now, that there is a reemergence of the feminine principle,
Mm-hmm.
and where do you see that taking place?
Well, if it's right, according to the prophecy of a medieval monk whose name was Joachim of Flores, he said that he felt that God the Father was the God of the Old Testament, and God the Son was, let's say, the archetype of the New Testament, but that the quote-unquote New Age, the age to come, as he said, would be the age of the Holy Spirit.
So I stopped it there, but I think that is very relevant right now to where we are. Although we're way past the point. I believe this interview was in the early 90s, 93, I believe, and Alice Howell is no longer with us. And nevertheless, the feminine is now much more active. And I think there's a merging that we're seeing right now with the masculine and the feminine coming together in consciousness, as we see here. So here is another medieval image of the Hagia Sophia. And in this one, you can see above her is the Christ energy. She's crowned, she's in the center with these other beings. And then above her at the very top, is the angels, the angelic realm. And she is crowned and enthroned, and it looks like she's standing once again on the earth. So she's bridging. She's spirit come back into matter. Such a beautiful image. Icon here. Here, once again, is the tree. And I like to use this particular replica of it and have for many years. Here you can see the planets, Neptune and Uranus, Saturn. And this is the realm of the sacred that she's talking about, the Godhead. Wisdom, Chokmah, is the place of Sophia. And Bina, which is called the Great Mother, is sort of the intimation of manifestation that will come in 3D. But at the very top, at crown, we can see that this entire triangle, the supernal triangle, is actually the realm of the gods. And behind this, we have what is called the Ein, which is the void. There is nothing. Then we've got the Ein Sof, the limitless all. And then out of that, the infinite light, the Ein Sofor. And from that comes that first spark, which is called the Yod, which is arrives here in Kettern, Keter, the crown. And what I'm going to mention here, we won't get into the Hebrew letters, but over here, these pathways between the spheres are the pathways of the Major Arcana. This is where we traveled when we ascended, going up from Malkuth, being the kingdom, being earth. We went up the Serpent Path in the Fool's Journey. Now we are coming down the lightning path this way. There's much to be said here. So these are planetary symbols. They also correspond to the alchemy. So this is Neptune, not sure what that might be, maybe, but here we have Uranus and Pluto. So we could say uranium and plutonium. And up here on the left, of course, is Saturn, lead. So that is what the alchemists, their journey was turning lead into gold and having it manifest in the rubedo, which is the return to earth. And so Saturn being lead, Jupiter being tin, we'll get back into this again, Mars being iron. The gold is right here in beauty, but we keep going. Even though beauty brings everything together into the center, we have Venus, copper, Mercury, and silver, which is the moon foundation, and arriving here in earth. So what we're doing is we're bringing the lead, the unconscious matter, we're returning the light back into this. So again, here we see the pillar of severity on this and the pillar of mercy, and there's much else here to meditate on. So moving forward, here are the four worlds on the tree that we were speaking of. And they represent, and this is really important when we look at the minor arcana of the tarot, because they would represent all the wands would be connected to Atzilut, which is the archetypal realm, which is the Yod. We have the Bria, the creative, which is water. So we're going from fire to water. These are the cups over here, which is the He of the Yod He Vav He. Going down, air, which is Yetzirah, the formative or vow, and all of these, of course, is this third world. We're getting closer to the earth, and down, and this is air, swords, and then the final tree is earth, and is relegated to pentacles, and is the four He of the Yod He Vav He. So this is Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asaya, the four worlds. The other thing that is significant, which you will see again and again in the medieval alchemical images, is that the symbol for fire is the upward pointing triangle. For water is the downward pointing triangle. In the center of the tree, the seal of Solomon is a coming together of the fire of water. It is a symbol of the Kunyuktio, of the masculine and feminine in perfect balance. And here, the ones with the line through it is the symbol for air, again, masculine, and earth, which is feminine. So it's a really pretty succinct depiction. And what I particularly love about this image, I didn't create it, but whoever did, because it's up for discussion and question as to whether the outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto belong in this particular placement that I've placed it. But whoever designed this seems to be on the same page. And of course, these are all originally where they were placed by the ancients. And here again is a medieval image where we can see these four worlds. The other thing that I didn't mention, but of course we will as we descend down the tree in future classes, because we'll be going through each sphere one by one and entering into the color and into some of the sounds and the imagery with that. But what is significant is that each of the spheres on the tree correspond to the four suits of the minor arcana. So all of the ones at the top of the tree are the aces, and all the twos would be connected to Chokmah, which is the Uranus, and all the threes will go into Saturn realms, and so on. And here's Jung's Tree of Life. And here's a diagram of how it might work. And again, this can be discussed, but here we can see the triangles. We can see spirit and the upper triangle, and then here the doth, the knowledge, as we descend down. Here is the reflective philosophical triangle. And then as we move down, shadow, by the way, is everywhere. Anima and animus are on the two sides, but originally they would be sitting up here. But we can see the archetypal world. And then down here, this is ego, but also because it's a subtle body and it's because the astral realm, it's also the realm of dreams, you know, thought, image and thought, and the moon. And then persona, of course, there's all the different masks that we wear as we, it shows up in the tarot cards. And of course, down here, we arrive on the fourth in body. Here's another image, which will come up again and again also, the sphere being representative of spirit, and the soul allowing this triangle to hold the tension of the opposites, the masculine and the feminine, the dark and light, sickness and health, if you like. It's holding this tension between the masculine and feminine. Transmutation happens at the apex. And so this particular symbol is connected to Hermes, and because he is the mediator between spirit and matter in the alchemical processes. And of course, here is matter, the cube, arrived on Earth, because that's four. There's Jung's quaternity is four: air, fire, earth, and water. Bringing spirit into matter was the squaring of the circle that the alchemists were struggling with. And here is another symbol that I made where you can see this laid out, the supernal triangle. I think it's the archetypal world, but actually even beyond that. And then the ethical triangle, as it's called, is the world of psyche and soul in the center, and the mental plane, and then the astral plane being that of the dream realm and the subtle body and the world of the imaginal. Here's another diagram of the same. Here we can see the lightning path is a sword, and this is the path we're taking on the Sophia journey. And on the right, we can again see laid out these triangles. And once again, we can see the lightning and the serpent paths. So says Jung, the right way to wholeness is made up of fateful detours and wrong turnings. It is a longissima via, not straight, but snake-like, a path that unites the opposites in the manner of the guiding caduceus, a path whose labyrinthine twists and turns are not lacking in terrors. From Psychology and Alchemy. And this is Froben. It's a very, again, a medieval image. And we can see the dove, actually. I don't know if it's a dove, it's a bird. Birds are, we'll see many birds in the alchemical. And as Marion Woodman used to say, we can see the hands coming out of the clouds, but we have the caduceus, the masculine, feminine snakes coming together and kissing at the top where they're crowned at the top of the tree. Again, symbol from the Red Book from Jung. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. This is George McCrae, who was one of the translators of the Nag Hammadi Library, which was discovered in the 1950s and held a lot of this lost information. And it is the Sophia as the union of the opposites. And antithesis and paradox may be used to proclaim the absolute transcendence of the revealer, whose greatness is comprehensible and whose being is unfathomable. This should say incomprehensible. So I will adjust that. So whose greatness is incomprehensible and whose being is unfathomable. So here's another image that I created so that we can get a sense of the supernal triangle. And this is, again, the realm of the unmanifest of the gods, the original archetypal image of what descends. But this triangle where we can see the tension between the masculine and the feminine, Hokmah being wisdom, Bina being understanding, which the two together and the crown are in themselves the supernal, the Godhead, as Alice O. Hoeller described it. And from Nietzsche, I say unto you, one must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. I say unto you, you still have chaos within. We will get a little bit more into this as we go. Here we can see the quintessence again within this five-pointed star. And we see it again in the figure of the man, the Vitruvian man, as it's called by Leonardo da Vinci, which we're all familiar with, and Jung on the self. So what is the self? The self can be accessed. The self appears in dreams, myths, and fairy tales in the figure of the supraordinate personality, such as a king, hero, prophet, savior, or in the form of a totality symbol, such as the circle, square, quadratura, circuli, the cross, etc. When it represents a complexio oppositorum, a union of opposites, it can also appear as a united duality in the form, for instance, of Tao, as in the interplay of yang and yin. Empirically, therefore, the self appears as a play of light and shadow, although conceived as a totality and unity in which the opposites are united. And of course, there it is. We'll continue. Again, from Jung, the soul comes from the stars and returns to the stellar regions. And the Gnostic tradition, the term Sophia, wisdom in Greek, is the final and lowest emanation of God. In most, if not all versions of the Gnostic myth, Sophia brings about an instability in the pleroma. So the top triangle could be called the pleroma. It's, before all. In turn, bringing about the creation of materiality. Sophia brings about an instability. She shakes things up in the pleroma by separating. In her separation from the one, from that one light, she began bringing us to the material form. So the pleroma in Gnosticism is the spiritual universe as the abode of the God and of the totality of the divine powers and emanations. So that would be the Kether, the top triangle. And this from Stephan Hoeller, the world's a gnosis, and we can see the three triangles. It's very interesting. Please play with this because there are no definitive answers. We are circumambulating this knowledge in order to make sense of it for our time. It's so important to go back to the ancients, but our time brings together a multitude of eras and times and aeons. So here we are, the pleroma, the cosmos, which corresponds, as we've been speaking, to this middle self, to the mental sphere. It seems, and then chaos, which is earth. And so we are in chaos. And here's a quote from Marion Woodman from Dancing in the Flames. It is within the chaos that a deeper, intrinsic order reveals itself. This is not the imposed order that we have become so accustomed to in a patriarchal, conceptualized world, an order that is not connected to the creative matrix. Rather, it is an order that emerges instead of being imposed. When we are connected to this emerging order, we are psychically living from the incarnate feminine energy that has within it the possibility of transformation. And I think this speaks directly to these three triangles of the Gnostics. And in conversations with Marion, it became clearer and clearer that Jung was very much influenced by the Gnostics and saw himself as a Gnostic, and I think that Marion Woodman did as well. So here from Jung, which is reminiscent of Hermetic, the emerald tablet. Know that the sun is your father, the moon is your mother, the wind bears you in its womb, and the earth nurses you. You are more than your body, more than your emotions, and more than your mind. You are something else. From you will come the golden flower, the alchemical essence. Of this no man may speak. Such matters must be transmitted in mystical terms, like employing fables and parables. The purpose of life is to square the circle. The 4, the 3, and the 2 must become one. From the marriage of the opposites, the royal marriage of king and the queen, is born the philosopher's stone, the 5th essence, also called the elixir of life. From the Splendor Solis, we have the sun and the moon, fire, and you can see that she is standing on a globe. So it's the sun and the moon, the marriage. And symbol. These are just important background concepts for some of us. Since the symbol derives as much from the conscious as from the unconscious, it is able to unite them both, reconciling their conceptual polarity through its form and their emotional polarity through its numinosity. So the symbol is metaphor. The symbol is the connecting, and this is what we're working with, is image and symbol. And it allows us to connect the force and form. The numinosity is the experience of the spirit in the body. And so here is the symbol, of course, from the 17th to 18th century, a familiar one of the Ouroboros. And here we have the snake eating itself. It's a symbol for, of course, eternity, the Ouroboros. And you can see that the upper is fiery wings. And I think that there might be, again, a connection here to Sophia's wings, but the circle of life and the snake eating its own tail, turning into fire, and then earth and fire, and then over and over again, this is the circle, the circumambulating. So here we go. Says Jung, the self is not only the center, but also the circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality, just as the ego is the center of consciousness. So the ego is all that we think we are, all that we know, but what we're receiving now is so much more. But we are not just a center, we're also the circumference. So we're moving through time and space as we are. And this is, again, a medieval image. And there's much here. We might come, here's Lucifer having fallen from the top. And there, we could meditate on this one for quite some time, but we can see the spiral universe here. It's where it would descend into matter or back again. Here's the image of the alchemist squaring the circle with his compass. And you can see he's using the circle and trying to square the circle. Of course, it's impossible to square the circle in physics because of pi, which I don't completely understand. But on a symbolic level, squaring the circle is bringing spirit into matter. And very important, this is also the thesis, antithesis, synthesis in Hegel's philosophy. We can see the feminine, masculine, the creative resolution. So within the triangle, we have so much, because within this is the two poles, the tension of the opposites that Jung speaks about, that do we go to the left? Do we go to the right? Do we go, is it dark? Is it light? We need both. And we cannot arrive at the third, at the transformational point, until we surrender, as Marion speaks to, until we surrender, because we can't move back and forth. We're in that on our globe right now. I mean, what is truth? What is a lie? Where are we? We don't know. So in this place is an incredible potential for transformation, because we have to hold that tension on the two sides. And as Marion used to remind us, if we hold that tension, then and surrender, the middle may open up and we may receive the grace that brings us to a whole different level of consciousness that was not even imagined on the level in which we were before. And that is what Jung referred to as the transcendent function, the transcendent third. More on that, of course. And here is an amazing symbol, also from the Middle Ages, which really incorporates all of it. It incorporates, as you can, if you look at the bottom, you're actually entering the temple. And Jung has images of this in the Red Book, of entering the temple, which is our own beings, our vessels, our bodies, and entering the temple and stepping into receiving the wings, the Yod-He Vav-He, which is what this is. It's the light of the God, receiving it down through the circle of the zodiac into the cube of space. And here we have all the astrological symbols around the circumference. And these planets, which Jung refers to again and again, which is Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus, and the sun and moon. And this is what was there. Within this, we can also see the quaternity, we can see the circle, and the fire over here. And that is the light, the spark that we're speaking of. I'll return to this. It's lovely because it's a cube, so it's dimensional, it has a dimensionality. So now I'm going to take you through a very few images, and then very briefly, we're going to back into the tree. So here is how the energy moves. And this symbol is important because we're on the lightning path going back and forth down. But whether you're going up the tree or down the tree, if you look at it from the bottom up, it's a spiral. If you look at it from the top down, it's a spiral. And we stand in both at the circumference and the center. And you'll note that David Bowie is a muse, my muse, so he arrives. And in these images here, he is backing into the tree. On the left, he is drawing a symbol of the tree. He is wearing an outfit that represents the lightning path. And on the right side, he is backing into the tree, which is what we're going to do, creating it in the body. Here we have the chakra system also showing us how this operates within us, the tree within us. And the caduceus on the tree of life. And again, the serpents coming together and meeting at the top. We can see some of the symbols. This is the pineal gland as we go through the throat, the doth, the heart, and then going downwards as we move down into the feminine. This is superimposed on the symbol of the tree. And then here the lunar, and here at last is the cube. So again and again, we have these images of the caduceus on the tree. Adam Kadmon, which is the name of the body of the microcosmic human, as we all are. And again, superimposed on the tree, you can see how it moves. And so you've seen this image before, and this gives me an opportunity to ask you to stand if you can. And I'm going to keep the image up, but you can stand and imagine yourself backing into the tree. And so imagine that your body is the tree, and you're going to open up the very, very top above your head. The supernal triangle is above your head. So you're going to open the light, the crown at the top. You're going to open it up and allow that white light to stream forth and move to the right, because the tree is reversed from what it was when we were looking at it. Now, subjectively, we're backing into it. So you're going to move to first, excuse me, I've already, you're going to move to the left for the Great Father energy, the Hokmah, across to Bina, the Great Mother on the right. And then you're going to descend. Let the stream of white light just travel down through your throat, down into your left shoulder, which is the Hesed, Jupiter, across to your right, the red, Mars, and then we're moving it down the gold into the heart and the solar plexus, this whole area of the sun. And then from there, I'm going to continue to the left side, which is Venus here, green, Netzach, and across, letting the light stream to the right side, which is Hod, which is Mercury, and it's green, and then down into this whole sexual region, which is the lunar moon Yesod, called the foundation. And then from there, let the energy stream all the way down into your feet and allowing it to stream out as roots deep and going deep into the iron earth of the planet itself, and letting your roots, dark, rusty red, sink deeper, deeper so you're grounded. And then gather that light, gather the red and the white and the gold and the green and the orange and the purple and the red and the blue, and bring it all up and let it all stream up and come back up and back down to the center. And that was a very quick journey through the backing into the tree, but we'll be doing that at the beginning of every class. So moving forward, again, we see the alchemy on the Tree of Life. And we see the alchemist with his compass, and he's standing at the top. We have the water, fire, masculine, feminine. The symbol right below the alchemist is, yes, it is for sulfur. It is a symbol of sulfur, and within it is the phoenix. And that transformational energy that we arise out of our ashes, that we begin with dark matter, and we'll be getting more into this, and unconscious matter. And through this process of alchemy, we're going to transform it, and that transformation is the phoenix, which is also, by the way, connected to the sign of Scorpio. So sulfur is fire, and that is up here. And then moving down here is Mercury, the sun and the moon, and Mercury arriving into matter, which is salt. And the feminine is connected to salt, Sophia, salt, and all the blooms here. So we'll be returning to this image, which is quite a potent one. And here's another medieval image of the alchemist, and you can see that they are having the angels here, and that here is Mercurius. Again, he's actually holding this, the caduceus in his hand, as he often does. And the alchemists down here are trapping the energy of Mercurius, who is both liquid and solid. And that's why he's the mediator, because sulfur is fire and is connected, and salt is earth. But Mercurius moves between, he's mercurial. And so they must trap this energy in order to be able to complete the alchemical processes. So here we go. And Jung, the alchemist, saw the union of opposites under the symbol of the tree. And it is therefore not surprising that the unconscious of present day man, so he no longer feels at home in his world and can base his existence neither on the past that is no more, nor on the future that is yet to be, should hark back to the symbol of the cosmic tree rooted in this world and growing up to heaven. The tree that is also man. In the history of symbols, this tree is described as the way of life itself, growing into which eternally is and does not change, which springs from the union of opposites, and by its eternal presence also makes that union possible. It seems as if it were only through an experience of symbolic reality that man vainly seeks his own existence, and making a philosophy out of it can find his way back to a world in which he is no longer a stranger. So there's much there. I apologize for the repetition there, but even the symbolic reality is dependent on the experience, our experience, the subjective experience of God, of experiencing our subjective reality. So all the learning, all that we learn and all the books we read, it makes no difference. Ultimately, it's the gnosis, it's the knowledge, the knowing that comes through, the knowing that the numinosity must be experienced, the archetypes in instinct within the body to make it real, to know. So this is from Psychological Types. And this is where we're going. And here we can see the tree laid out again with all the planets. And we'll be moving class by class. Next week, I'm hoping, because I wanted to begin with Neptune, but there was just too much to cover, and I wanted to do the overview. So next week, we'll be working with this light, with Neptune, and also with Pluto, which actually isn't a planet according to astronomers any longer, but it is the hidden knowledge. It's the gnosis, it's the place of the gnosis. So we're going to be working with these two before we pop back in to these. And from this point onward, from Saturn on, we're going to be working with what the ancients called the azot, which is the Mercurius itself, and will take us through the entire alchemical journey of individuation. So that's to come. This is Jung's Red Book, as you can see. He is working with the tree. Down here is definitely the instinctual level, unconscious instinct, and we have the roots of the tree and the fire, and here is that light, bridge and the bridge. The trunk is a bridge. So we ourselves in our body are a bridge between spirit and matter. We'll be coming back to this image again many times. Don't worry about it. If it doesn't make sense. This is the alchemical process moving from lead, the negredo, the blackness, the unconscious matter, into gold, the sacred marriage of individuation. Ultimately, we arrive back in the rubedo, which is bringing that new energy of the sacred marriage of back into life and to bring new life, because that reddening is about blood, it's about new life. So, and the albedo is connected to ash. So negredo, albedo, conjunctio, rubedo, and we will come back. And these images, this here, which we've been over a little bit, will be the alchemical elements that correspond to each of these places on the tree. And it is through these and the planets that we're going to be bridging our understanding. So says Jung, sun and moon supply the seeds that are planted in earth, Mercurius, and presumably the 4 other planets form the trunk of the tree, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. We saw that in the symbol previously of that square. The 4 that are to be united into one refer to the tetrasomia of Greek alchemy, where corresponding to the planets, they stand for lead, tin, copper, iron, and copper, respectively. What we just went over. Here's another beautiful alchemical image where you can see the whole thing laid out, and we'll be coming back to this one again too. Again, we have the Yad-He-Vah-He of the gods, the angels, the entire zodiac, because the ancients used astrology, and here is Mercurius. I cannot read the Latin. If anyone can, please send it forward. But here is Mercurius, who comes down the center of the tree and makes the bridge, and is both at the bottom and the top of the tree. These are, again, the planets, and as well as the zodiac, and the birds of transformation. So we'll return to this image. There's much here to be meditated upon. Again, as you can see, this is Mercurius, who is creating, this is Mercurius being caught in the alchemically sealed vessel, which we must contain ourselves. We are all on a planetary level, even as we sit here outside of time and space together, we are all in an alchemically sealed vessel. Coronavirus has sent us inward, has sent us into the inner reaches of outer space within ourselves. And so we are in this grand opportunity to understand that which has been hidden to us because we've been so much involved in the outer world. So we get to transform, to do our inner alchemy through this process, through our own work right now, as we prepare for what is to come. And yes, there is a future on the other side. Here is Jung's star from the Red Book, and a little more about that. We will be getting into this. He says here, and this is from that beautiful art book that appeared in Santa Barbara on Jung's art. Jung saw the star as a variation of the mandala figure. In 1950, he published the painting Star in Concerning Mandala Symbolism immediately after the image of page 105 in the Red Book. And he added this commentary. Once again, the center is symbolized by a star. This very common image is consistent with the previous pictures where the sun represents the center. The sun too is a star, a radiant cell in the ocean of the sky. The picture shows the self appearing as a star out of chaos. The four-rayed structure is emphasized by the use of four colors. The picture is significant in that it sets the structures of the self as a principle of order against chaos. Collected Works 9. So I'm just going to go back so you can have another look at that before we move forward, and we will be coming back to this. And again, that Sophia descended from the pleroma into the realm of the world, which is chaos, which is where we are now, preparing to come out of the chaos by bringing this spiritual light back in, the sacred. And in Alchemy and Individuation, according to Jung, alchemy is a symbolic representation of the individuation process. Alchemy, as a nature philosophy, is of great consideration in the Middle Ages, throws a bridge to the past, the gnosis, and also to the future, the modern psychology of the unconscious, let's hope. Only by discovering alchemy have I clearly understood that the unconscious is a process and that ego's rapport with the unconscious and his contents initiate an evolution, going more precisely, a real metamorphosis of the psyche. So we're evolving from the external into the internal and spiraling back out again. And then again, above so below, the union of opposites and the transcendent third. And we're looking at Hegel's thesis, antithesis, synthesis, where we just were. And again, Jung says, as I see it, as the three-dimensional world in time and space is like a system of coordinates. It may appear there in space-timelessness as a primordial image with many aspects. The tendencies of the conscious and the unconscious are the two factors that altogether make up the transcendent function. It is called transcendent because it makes the transition from one attitude to another organically possible. And I think this is where we are right now. And says Marie-Louise von Franz, if we stay with the tension of opposites long enough, sustain it, be true to it, we can sometimes become vessels within which the divine opposites come together and give birth to a new reality. And from Marion Woodman, the body has a wisdom of its own. However slowly and circuitously that wisdom manifests, once it is experienced, it is a foundation, a basis of knowing that gives confidence to the ego. To reach its wisdom requires absolute concentration, dropping the mind into the body, breathing into whatever is ready to be released, and allowing the process of expression until the negative, dammed up energy is out, making room for the positive energy, genuine light to flood in. So even though Marion didn't consciously work with the tree, you can see in this language that she is speaking to the little journey that we just took, where the body is holding Sophia's wisdom. And of course, for Marion, Sophia was the feminine face of God. And the foundation being that lunar vessel, that containment where we looked at the Yesod, the foundation, the moon, where we hold the container of the feminine, and is also the womb itself. And that this holding, this opening, allows the ego to be able to be strong enough to to receive the penetration of the light. And there I'm paraphrasing Marion. So here's William Blake, and here is the union of body and spirit. And we're at the end. And again, Jung, individuation. Every life is a realization of a whole that is a self, for which reason this realization can also be called individuation. All life is bound to individual carriers who realize it. Every carrier is charged with an individual destiny and destination, and the realization of these alone makes sense of life. And so, a little bit of Marion as we close.
I do believe that we all have a destiny. We either live it or we escape because we're afraid to live our own reality. I feel blessed. I didn't really have choices. I have been forced through dreams, through my body responses, through illness, to surrender. The surrender feels like death, but if you're going to live your full soul's journey and find the spiritual dimension, you're going to go this way and surrender the old life to the new. I do not see surrender as failure at all. I would have simply died if I hadn't seen that in the death was the birth of a whole new consciousness.
And this photograph, this beautiful photograph, was taken by our Vanessa, who is here with us today. Thank you, Vanessa. Marion loved this photo because she's looking both inward and outward. And this was our original image that we began with when we began A Fool's Odyssey back in April, at the beginning of coronavirus, and when the Black Madonna candle was still whole. And thank you so much for being with me on this first, a very full class. And here's the Sophia. And I think that's it. Let's open it up to questions and comments.
Mary had a question before. Where is the cube in the body?
The cube is Earth. So the cube would actually be the whole body in a way. Does that make sense? Yeah. Tim, yeah, would you like to speak? So we can hear you. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
So yeah, Eva, I was just, your sequence of slides was bringing up the creation Gnostic myth in thinking about this thematic class or co-learning journey is about a descent. And Howell's note around feminine wisdom as a guide. I'm curious about how in the creation story in the Gnostic myth, this actually descent is a realm of kind of object opposites and confusions from what Sophia gave birth to. And the light she brought into it was some form of a redemptive act. And it seems from the psychology of Jung and depth psychology to Hermetic traditions, there's this feminine wisdom that's being carried forward to navigate the depths and the descent. And yeah, I was more like kind of putting it out as a springboard to explore what feminine wisdom comes to mind for everyone here when you hear that term, and what it speaks to kind of in your work or in your curiosities. And if you had some additional thoughts on Howell's note around that, Eva, yourself.
Well, it's an excellent question, of course, Tim, and a complex one, because there are actually many versions, as I'm discovering. I'm delving into Hoeller now, of the Sophia myth. But one of them is that she fell. She literally is part of there's a beautiful poem, I'll see if I can find, by Sappho, about falling, about being a star and falling from that star into matter. But when that separation happened, somehow there's a complex story we'll get into with the demiurge, which was her child, who was a monster, and then got caught, and she followed the wrong light, and she got lost. And when she got lost, there was a splintering of the spheres, and there was all hell broke loose, so to speak. And according to Stephan A, the demiurge is the God Yahweh that we've been worshiping, and he's the world that we've created. So Sophia got lost, and we're hoping now that she returns so she can come back and animate the matter, the world. And that's what we're all here for, because we are emissaries of Sophia, or we wouldn't be here. I know that, just as you said, Tim, beautiful springboard. And if anyone would like to comment on that, we'll continue that conversation. Thank you. Does that help? Does that answer your question for the moment?
Yeah, it's great just to get it started. I know we're just beginning this journey.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any questions, comments, anything?
I have a quick question. I know I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm curious to hear why you're merging Neptune and Pluto for the first or the next.
Excellent question, Ananda. And the reason I'm doing that is because I was going to start with Neptune with this class and realized that there should have been 12 classes. Maybe there will be, because we really needed the introduction and the overview. And so I'm merging Neptune and Pluto just for the sake of having the 11 classes. But there's a secondary reasoning to that. And that is that the three outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, are actually not part of the alchemical processes that the ancients followed, of course. And so we're going to work with these before we get into the actual Hermetic processes. Pluto is here in our throat area, so it's the gnosis. So bringing the light into the knowing might be all right for the next class, and then we're going to move into wisdom and understanding going through. So we'll see. I mean, sometimes it has a life of its own. Thanks, Ananda, and thank you for the addition of the Neptune, and we will be incorporating it, of course. And Ananda has made us sound connections for each of the planets, and so we're going to be incorporating the sound as well as the color. And I would like to propose to each of you to work with that, because you all have so many creative talents and gifts, and over the course of time, you know, there will be dreams that you will want to incorporate, hopefully, and bringing in the vibration of sound, color, all of it will really enhance this very multivalent process. Thank you, Ananda. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was not in the previous course. Is there anything that you'd recommend, like, I don't know, reviewing the previous course, or just to get up to speed? I didn't feel lost today, but I was just wondering if there's any information that would be useful for me to have, since I didn't do the previous.
Well, there's a number of things. There are a number of introductory YouTube videos. There's one that Skip Conover, who is here, kindly hosted. What is that one called? It's on YouTube.
You're talking about your presentation?
Yes.
Okay, just a minute. I'll
I
get
think
the
it was
link
called
for it.
the psychic, the mystic fool. But
Yeah, right. I'll just get the link here, just a moment.
oh, thank you. That's wonderful. So there's that link. And then there's also a whole course that I did 4 years ago for the Depth Psychology Alliance. And that can be purchased. It's been kindly edited and made available on my website. It's available for purchase, and it's 9 sessions called The Mystic Fool that takes you through the whole journey. But it's not a prerequisite. So if you don't want to do that right now, you can still get information. You can go to my website. There's another video that I did in 2016, which is an overview. It incorporates more of the tarot. And then there's also an interview with Bonnie Bright of the Depth Psychology Alliance called Jung, Alchemy, and the Tree of Life. So all of that is on YouTube or on my website.
Yeah, I'll post the link on the Facebook group so everyone can see it too.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation, and more to come. And there's an enormous amount of information because it is multivalent and it's multidimensional. Welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. We're here together. It's a really intense time, and we are here from many different places, many different time zones. I'm so grateful to be journeying with all of you on this journey of discovery.